Alezae, how long would you say, when you recall back into your childhood and into your life, how long would you say you struggled with same sex attraction?
Wow. Um, I would say it started in daycare, to be honest. But I didn't start portraying it outwardly until I was about 16 years old.
And considering everything that's going on in the world, considering that this is a popular topic in schools and in politics and social media, for you, why is it important for you to share your testimony of what Jesus has done in your life? Why do this?
I want people to know the loving God, the true living God, and that how the enemy portrayed our lives to be isn't what it is. And that we can come to know true love. We can come to know who love is, which is Jesus. And I believe that at one point I was amongst those who believed in what people are saying. And I was amongst them, you know? So I think it just got to a point where when I encountered truth, when I encountered Jesus, it's one of those things when you're in love, you want to tell the world.
Hmm.
And I want to tell the world about Jesus, and that if he did it with me, he can do it with them.
Man, hit the like button for Alezae. Hit that like button for Alezae. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on post notifications. First and foremost, I want to say thank you, Alezae, for being vulnerable to begin with and being open and allowing yourself to um, be an example or be a testimony for a lot of people who don't know about Jesus and who don't know that he exists, who don't believe that he's real, who don't believe that he is truth, who thinks that his life is a lie, how the enemy has tricked us into believing that his life is a lie. I appreciate you for being vulnerable. And we're going to get into the rest of this video because I'm very, very interested in hearing how this transformed for her.
Well, Alezae, wherever you want to start, share with us, what has Jesus done, and yeah, what is your testimony?
The question is what Jesus hasn't done. um, I guess I can start by saying it started when I was young. I was a child. I've been molested by 3 different men in my life, 2 at the age between 3 and 8, and again at the age of 12. At a very young age, that spirit of lust did jump on me and perversed my mind in many ways, even at a young age, having attractions even early as daycare. It was one of those things where I couldn't control. I couldn't control how I felt towards women. And it wasn't until I started getting in my middle school years that I started wanting my hair cut. I started wanting shorter hair. I started changing my clothes. I lived in a strict home. My parents are, my mom's Spanish, strict household. But one thing was I was afraid. So I'll steal my brother's clothes, carry in my book bag, go to school, change out of feminine attire to wear his clothes at school, come change before I got back home, back into my attire. And it was one of those things where I didn't really speak about it to anybody really until I was 16 years old. It got to the point where I couldn't hide it anymore. My mom started recognizing, I started becoming more tomboyish. I started showing it outwardly. I ended up telling my mom at one point, and I told my mom, hey, mom, I like women. And, I feel for any Spanish household, it's kind of, certain households, it is kind of hard for people to accept. And
you were 16 at this time?
I was 16 when I told my mother. And at that point, I had to make the decision to leave with my father in Pennsylvania.
And Alezae, before you move on from there, just because I want to understand here a little bit, what was that even like as far as the preparation of getting ready to tell your mom, something that could, potentially get you kicked out, or, you don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen, but what
Yeah.
was that like, dealing with
So
that?
I have a family member that goes down that way, that is a homosexual. So I didn't think my mom probably would have rejected it. More so, I thought she would accept it. But it turned out to be the complete opposite. More so, I'm her child, and she has a say so over my life as her child. And she had dreams for me. And it's as if me telling her I was gay, those dreams kind of deteriorated in front of her. And it was one of those things where it did hurt me, because it's like, this is what I like. This is what I'm feeling. And this is what I want in my life. And it's kind of hard to hold and suppress these emotions that I'm having towards women.
This right here is extremely, extremely important. And again, Alezae, I want to say thank you for being open and being honest. It's very, very interesting because what she said, and I don't want to take away from her story, so I'm gonna be brief about what I'm about to say. She said that her family member or somebody within the family rocks that way, right? They're homosexual. And apparently, it seems like her mom doesn't have a problem dealing with that person in the family that is homosexual. But when it came down to her own child, it was different. And I wanted to point that out because a lot of the times we do that. We act like, and when I say us, I'm talking about us as a society, right? We act like certain things are okay. We act like certain things are not bothering us. We act like certain things are acceptable until it's within your own household or until it's in your area or somewhere that hits deep, right? She said her mother didn't see that for her, right? And most parents don't see that for their kid. But this was the reality. This was the reality. And I think that that's maybe even what enticed Alezae a little bit more to be that way, because maybe she saw that she was comfortable with that other person within the family and the fact that they're, outside and they're homosexual or whatever the case may be. And so it got to a point where one, she couldn't hold it anymore. She had to be truthful about what she was feeling and experiencing. And then at the same time, now that she's seeing maybe the okay, so to speak, from her mother dealing with that other family member, maybe that enticed her to go that much further into saying, okay, this is going to be what I claim and this is going to be how it is, but I'm going to let Alezae talk.
So you said from there you went to live with your dad.
With my father.
Okay.
So
So they weren't together at this time. Okay.
No. So I was raised by my mom and my stepdad. And then when I turned 16, I moved with my father.
What was his reaction?
So my father was way more lenient. My dad, he was the type, baby, if you want to shave your head, shave your head. If you want to wear boy clothes, wear boy clothes. If you want to, he was very, very open. And, when you've been in a strict household for so long and then go into a non-strict household and, my dad giving me that access, I went crazy. I shaved my head bald. I started wearing boxers. I was sagging. I was sleeping around with women. I went wild because at that point, it's like I wanted to do what I wanted to do at that moment. I started battling with depression pretty heavily. It was happening in Florida because that's where I was raised. It started happening in Florida, but it didn't really hit me until I moved up north. And when I moved up north, my dad noticed it. And he would tell me, there's something wrong that you're not telling me. Something had to happen in Florida that you're not telling me.
And the depression started from, have you pinpointed from when did it start?
I would say I was around 14, I would say. Around 14. And again, it was more so I felt that I had a home. I want to start by there. I had a home. I had everything I wanted, materialistically. But in my mom's house, I felt like I longed for love. I felt I didn't get at that time. My mom raised us the best that she can to her abilities. But I felt a lack of love, and I was very drawn to things due to it, I guess, if you could say. And my mom was the type, I don't want you texting boys, hanging out with boys. So I was always surrounded around women. So it made it even that more intense than that. But in moments of my depression, I feel that it started at 14 and then just escalated.
And your dad started to notice it?
Yeah, he noticed it. he noticed it and he said, something had to happen to you while you were down there. And I told him I was molested.
The truth is, behind closed doors, the P word became my secret sin at age 10. And for the next 17 years of my
And he gave me the ultimatum. He said, either you're going to tell your mom or I'm going to tell your mom. And I didn't want my mom hearing that from my father. I wanted her to hear it from me. So when I told my mom, my whole world flipped upside down. And she believed me, but a lot of my family members disowned me because of it. And from there, you know, I had people that believed me and stood for me, but there was a specific person that did it that denied it even happened. So it took a while. It took a while for me to get over that, you know, the loss of family members, people not believing me. But as I went on with living on with my dad, even through the rejection, it was as if I didn't care, you know. But I started seeing demons, and I don't know. I can't really pinpoint when, but I know that it started happening around, I want to say maybe 17. I started seeing demons maybe.
So when you say that, for people that maybe have never experienced that, what exactly was happening, and if you can explain in the best you can.
So I feel like the deeper I was getting into depression and it started weighing off into suicidal thoughts, I started to see shadows. They first started off as shadows. I used to be in the dark. I was always in dark places. I stopped eating. So whenever I found myself in a dark place or secluded, I would start seeing figures. And these figures will visit, so not very often, but they'll come and go until I continue to get deeper and deeper into homosexuality and into depression and suicidal thoughts where they became more vivid. So I ended up moving to a high school. And in this high school, I was a new kid. And at that point, it was my first high school from moving from Florida. And I was dating and I ended up being with this woman. And I noticed how much that spirit had a hold on me, homosexuality, because it was as if I was obsessed. It got to the point where being without her, I couldn't do it. I had to be with her. I had to be wherever she was at, I had to be. And I remember it got to the point where my dad and my stepmom at the time, they had to separate us.
This is a real thing. I want to let y'all know that this is a real thing. It's real. And a lot of the times, I mean, I'm going to speak especially for us as Christians, we think that, first of all, I want to apologize to those who maybe aren't Christians and don't believe, because sometimes I do notice that as Christians, we walk with a little bit of a chip on our shoulders, like we're invincible. And we do have to remember where God took us from. And remember how you were just on the edge. You were right on the edge. I know definitely I was. And I was within her realms, right? I didn't go within the means of homosexuality, but I was very much so in lust. Very, very deep in lust, right? And although I would tell myself a lot of the times that, you know, I'm not having sex with as much women as these other dudes, or I'm not, you know, I'm being specific with who I'm sleeping with. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would come up with these little excuses, but I realized that I was digging a ditch for myself, even to the point where my current wife, I almost could have lost her. I almost could have lost her. We weren't married at the time, and we were just starting out and everything. But at the end of the day, if God didn't take me from that moment, I truly, truly do not know where I would have been led to. And I just want to say thank you again, Alezae. Thank you for your transparency. Thank you for your bravery. Thank you for your testimony, and thank you for your love that I see on you now when it comes to Jesus. And it's evident, right? Because the things that you're talking about, I know that it's not easy to speak about. It's not easy to speak about. And I believe that the only way you're able to speak about it is because Jesus is truly in your life and the enemy has no hold over you anymore. So I love you, Alezae. I'm gonna let you talk for a little bit more, and I'm gonna definitely link in the description this video if you guys want to hear the whole testimony. And let's get back into it.
And I would bang my head on walls. I would bang my head on walls just because it was as if like I had a soul tie to her. And I just couldn't understand why. I remember around this time I was cutting. I started cutting. In my room, I used to have a glass door. My stepmom didn't trust me with a regular door. She wanted to see just in case something were to happen. And around this time that I was cutting was when the demons were becoming more vivid, and they would visit me at 3 a.m. every day. And I would see them. And one incident really, really scared me. It was at 3 a.m. one day. And, you know, when you wake up and I saw this big 6-foot figure in front of my door, and I thought it was so dark that I thought it was my father, because my father goes to work around that time. And I put my blanket down. I saw it and I put my blanket back over my head. You know, when you're a kid and you try to hide, thinking that it's going to disappear. And it didn't. I put my blanket back down to see if it disappeared. It never disappeared. So when I woke up that morning, I asked my father, my uncle who was living in our house at the time, if anybody checked in on me. And they said no. So they were checking security cameras. They were checking everything that they can possibly think about checking. And nothing. Nobody came in the doors. And at that point, I was like, yeah, this devil's out for me. Sometime around that time, I was still with the same girlfriend. And she came to pick me up from my house. And my stepmom was on the front porch, on the front steps of my house. And my aunt came with her friend. I walked up the hill with my girlfriend at the time. And the woman, I didn't know she was a servant of the Lord. And she asked my stepmom, who was that girl that just walked off? And she was like, that's my stepdaughter. And she said, the devil and God are fighting for her soul. And I knew it. I knew it because I was seeing demons. I was wanting to kill myself. I just wanted to die. And I wanted death, but I just felt like God was in the midst of it.
Man, that's powerful. What's powerful about this is not the fact that the demons were, in a sense, tormenting her and kind of like presenting themselves here and there, or not here and there, actually every day, she said, at 3 a.m. Right. So what's powerful about that is that if the demons really had control over her, they would have got her. They would have got her. To me, I truly believe that the Lord was in her life. If you get to the point where you can see a demon and they don't attack you, or they can't fully come against you, yo, Jesus is really, really in your corner. He's really, really in your corner. And I pray that anybody going through this, or any type of whatever situation is that you're going through, whenever you feel low like that, whenever you feel like you're in the lowest place possible, remember that you still have the strength to fight back. Remember that you are not dead. The fact that you have breath in your lungs is meaning that Jesus is fighting for you and with you. And again, Alezae, I love you. I appreciate you for being vulnerable. I'm gonna link this video in the description, and I'm proud of her. I'm totally proud of her. Make sure you guys hit that like button for Alezae, the woman right here, not the drink, because I know some of y'all, man, y'all crazy. But y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments below. I think this is a very, very interesting testimony, and man, if I ever see her on social media, I'm gonna be excited to see her journey. I definitely am. That's very, very beautiful. I appreciate y'all for tuning in with me. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, turn on post notifications, and I'll see y'all in the next video. In Jesus' name, peace.